In last class we've seen the differences between PC data and C data. PC data is nothing but a way in which you tell the parser to parse the given text or the given data, and if there is any problem, raise the error. Whereas when it comes to the C data, what you are telling the parser is not to parse the given text or the given data, and whatever that is written inside the C data, give it as it is to the application. So let's recall the rules for the declaring the XML element. You know very well, XML document contains a self-describing syntaxes. All the tags are case sensitive. Elements, any element you write must have the closing tags. Element must be properly nested, and there must be one root element as well as all the values for the attributes must be floated. Okay. Now this is the general structure of any XML document. There are three major components within the XML document. The first one is the prologue, the next is the body, and the last one is the epilogue. Prologue is something that comes before. So these things are taken from a screenplay or a drama. If you compare this with the drama or any other screenplay, the prologue is something that comes before the actual play begins, and the epilogue is something that comes after the play has ended. So if you take it to an ordinary Hindi movie, then it will be like when the movie starts, you have the scene like a hero and his family, and maybe his sister and maybe his friend. That is the beginning part. And then the movie continues, and finally the happy ending is maybe one romantic song is repeated again with and they lived happily thereafter. So that is the last part. Okay. In between is the actual component. So in terms of the XML, that's the same thing that is happening. Before you write the actual content, so your body actually contains, the body of the XML contains the actual data, whereas these two are helper. Okay, so what is there in the prologue? Now one of them is a must, that is the declaration. This is it is not a recommendation must, but it is advisable you put the XML declaration. Then you may get an optional document type declaration, that is DTD. After that, you may have any number of processing instruction as well as the comments. Whereas at the epilogue part, this part is fully optional, it's not really required. You may have the processing instruction. In the body part, you may, as usual, you have one or more element declarations and their attributes and so on, not the declaration, the elements with their attributes and so on. And you may also have the processing instruction. You notice that the processing instructions are there at many places. Let's recall what is the meaning of saying processing instruction. The processing instructions are used to give certain instruction to the parser. So if you want to communicate with the parser, give some instruction, maybe do a spell check or maybe don't raise an error or anything of that type. You give the processing instruction. Now when do you give the processing instruction? If you give the processing instruction at this place, that is usually at the global level. You want that thing to be there throughout. In the document body, why do you have to put the processing instruction? If you want one section of the XML document to be processed separately from the others, just before that particular section, you can put a processing instruction that will help the parser to maybe validate or do something different from the usual routine. And at the end, why do you put it? Once everything is over, you may want to generate some report or anything of that type. So once everything is over, you can again ask the parser to do something. That is again the processing instruction. Remember, it is used to just give some certain instruction which is not the actual data, just an instruction to the parser. Okay. So let's look at the document. So I have the prologue section. Don't worry about the content. You don't put them in the different section over here. So the first one, prologue, contains, this part is called as the declaration part. Then you may have the comments. I will ignore the comments, you know very well. After that, you may or you may not have this particular thing. This is optional. Doc type is optional because that can be replaced by schema and other things. Then you may have the comments as well as processing instruction. Nothing is there over here. This is the body which may contain some processing instruction. At the end, you have the epilogue. So this is how it goes, and you notice this is the root element. Don't worry about what is written there. So root element, what comes after the root element? Anything you put after the root element is usually considered as the epilogue. Okay, a simple example here. So we have the XML declaration here and a processing instruction to include a style sheet. Then there is a root element, and this is actually a declaration for the books of the publishers, so book, title, author, and so on. So that's the usual thing. And finally, after this, if I write anything, it is not written. That is because the epilogue is altogether a optional part. You can have something after this. Okay, now let's come back to the first part, that is the declaration part. We need to talk about that. What is there in the declaration section? Now the declaration will begin with the question mark XML. That's the reason the word XML itself is not a advisable word to be used, or it is a restricted word. Any tag that you start, you are not supposed to start with XML, because when you start with XML, it means to say that it's a part of the XML declaration itself. So if you are creating your own tags, see to it that you start with the XML for your data type or your personal tags. To write anything, don't start with the XML, because that word XML, in any case, in any format, regardless of the cases, mixed case or capitalized or anything, just avoid that word XML, because it will create trouble. If not today, it may create a trouble tomorrow. That 3 letters are usually not the one to be used, but you may not get a serious error message, but it is advisable. Okay. So let's look at how do you declare a declaration. So declaration must begin, very important thing. It must be, if you are writing, it must be the first thing that will appear in your document. No space is allowed, nor even a comment is allowed, nor even a line break is allowed. So it is the first thing that you are writing in the document, if at all you want to write that declaration. Again, if you don't write the declaration, nothing will happen. Because of the extension .xml, most of the parser will recognize them as a when you save the file, you usually put the .xml as a file extension. Because of that extension, the parser will recognize that this is an XML document, but it is advisable to put this declaration. What are the things which are there in the XML? So after this XML, you may have a version number, encoding, and standalone. 3 things can come at that place. Now, what is this version number? Now, version number indicates which is the version of XML that you are using. Again, you know very well. When they started with the first standardization, W3C came up with version 1. Later, there was some conflict or some improvements were required, so they went to 1.1. Tomorrow, they may start with 2.1, 3.1, and so on. So, by putting the version number, what you are telling the parser is, parse it according to this standard. Otherwise, what it will do is, suppose say the version 2 is not out. So suppose say in future it will just say you are writing an XML which is in compliance with the standard 2.0. But the parser is thinking that it is of the standard 1.0. So in the 2.0 version, you may have many new things, but that was not there in olden days. So what the parser will do is immediately it will start an unnecessary error, or it will raise an exception, and it may stop processing altogether. So how do you avoid? You just tell the parser that I am writing it according to this standard. So it will change its technique of parsing so that you won't get unnecessary errors. Okay. Then the next one is encoding style that is you are using. Now, what is the meaning of saying encoding style? How the characters are encoded? The very simplest example you studied right from your high school. That is the ASCII. ASCII is one way of representing the characters. So you have the 7-bit or extended ASCII 8 bits. The number is used to represent the different letters. Similarly, Whenever we talk about encoding, we refers to that particular thing, a number or some representation for the characters within the language. Now, what happened is, you are already familiar. ASCII was meant only for English and some special symbols for drawing some graphics. Later, people like Southeast Asian and other African and all these people, they said we want to incorporate our own languages as part of it. It's not just English which is there. There are many other languages that are used across the world. So what to do with it? So they came up with the Unicode format. Now what is this Unicode format? Is a way in which the information or the different characters from different countries are represented. So everything put together. It is not just the ASCII. UTF-8 is actually a 8-bit. That this 8 refers to how many bits it is using. UTF-8 is 8-bit. That does not mean that. Remember, 8-bit is almost full. You are already studied. Within that 8 bits, you have that 256. All the symbols are filled up. The first one is for English and the control characters and so on. And finally, all the letters are used up. Now, I can't incorporate Hindi or Kannada or any other language. So, what is being done? How do they represent it in the 8-bit format? The idea there was, if you are writing it in plain English format, that is ASCII format, it will use 8 bits. If you represent Indian language, what it will do is, it will automatically, there is a trick that they are using, it will reserve 2 more bytes for representing the international characters, any other character. So, what is the disadvantage with this is, suppose if you are using UTF-8 and then typing Indian language or any Hindi, Kannada or other, your size of the file will be 2 times more than the actual character that is required, because 8 it is taking as ASCII, plus 2 as a trick it uses that 2 separate 2 bytes. Altogether, you have 3 bytes used up for 1 character. Okay. So, if it is Hindi or any other language, what you can do is you can change that number to UTF-16, or there are many versions have come, 32 and so on. For the other one, what is UTF-16 is doing is, for any character, it is using 16 bits. So, 2 to the power 16 characters can be represented, so it is easier. Okay. So, if you think that you are using only Hindi or anything, go for UTF-16 because it's going to reduce. Otherwise, what will happen if you are using UTF-8, 8 bytes for its original representation, others 2 additional bytes it's going to use. So, every character is 3 bytes. Whereas with UTF-16, every character is 2 bytes. So, you're going to save 1 byte of space. However, if you are just writing plain English, then don't go for UTF-16 because you are wasting 1 extra byte for every representation, because the English can be easily represented with UTF-8. Again, it depends on what program you are writing or which project you are working on. Usually this thing you don't have as a developer, you don't have a choice here. They will tell that our clients are there in some other countries, so please, they won't tell. They have the standard with them. You have to just read the content. Okay, as a developer, your work is to just read the content, recognize that thing and read the content. Okay, so I've already talked about this. I won't talk much about that. Okay. One simple example, you can have any other character also. ISO standardizations are there. Don't just think UTF-8, 16 and other. There are many character encodings are available. One of the famous you are already familiar is EBCDIC, that is by IBM, EBCDIC. That is used by IBM. I started the Visual Studio. I don't know why it didn't start it. There is one more software that you can think of using, and that is this software is not there. If you are heavily using, you're not using it for development. In that case, you get this Altover. Okay, Altover XML Spy. This is the other software that you can think of using. It is recommended. Again, you get Liquid XML as one more. That is exclusively meant for handling XML. Now, Visual Studio is not designed to handle plain XML. You can write a program that will manipulate XML, but Visual Studio as it is from ground up, it is not built for XML. So let's go for X, and I will show that Alto XML file slightly later. Let me start with the thing. I think if it is just started, okay, that's not an error message. If you look at this particular thing, it is meant to handle almost all different types of XML related things. Okay, that software is meant to handle that thing. This software is not installed; it is commercial one. It's not freely available. The current version is, I think, Alto 2012 is the current version. I have not gone venture into that. Let me go to one sample. I think I have some sample. It was there. I think almost everything is there. Okay, I tried to open the yesterday's one. So it also appears in the same way. You have that thing. You can represent it in the format of a grid, which is much easier to represent. Okay. So there are many other notions are there. You can get a schematic representation. I will just show you the good thing of this thing. When you create a schema, it is much easier to develop a schema using this software as compared to the Visual Studio, because it shows you the symbolic way of representation. Instead of hard coding the things, you can just manipulate the symbols, get a schema. Now that is usually used when you have complicated schema. So it's, you know very well, picture is worth of 1,000 words. Instead of typing 1,000 words and then trying to figure out where you made a spelling mistake, it is better to use this kind of software. Okay, so let's go back to this one. By default, it just says version 1.0. You may get version 1.1. That's the last one. You may not get above this. Now it is up to you. I will use the control space. You are already familiar with that thing. To use any of the character sets. So these are all character sets which are part, any Windows character set or any other. It depends on your application. It is it's not that it must be used. The last thing that to be used over here is standalone, yes or no. What is the meaning of saying standalone? Yes or no is this document standalone? What do we mean by saying that? Does this has everything that is required, or is there something that is there elsewhere? So this document contains only part, some other pieces are there elsewhere. So if you make standalone no, it means to say that something is missing in this document. There are some additional things which are available elsewhere. So you are telling the parser that it is not only this document, there is some related contents are there elsewhere. So that's the meaning. So that is what we mean by saying standalone, yes or no. Suppose if you are writing a document which contains everything, and we use the standalone. By default, it is assumed that standalone is yes. That means if you don't specify this, it is assumed that you have everything that is required to parse and use your document. Let's go to the next part now. Let's look at a simple example how it is done. I'm not going to type and waste my time. The first one is the encoding that is being represented here. The next one is document type. I will come back to the document type for the time being. Just ignore that thing. Doc type declaration. Then we have a style sheet. After that, all the root element and all the sub elements which are there, and this part is the attributes, and you know there is slight variation. You notice that this is a single quote, not the double quote. Again, that's perfectly valid. It must be quoted, either single or double quotes. It doesn't make a difference, but it must be quoted. That is what is important. And finally, this is the data which is to be presented. Okay. Again, let's recall how, when do you say that a document is well formed? Okay. First of all, when you talk about a document, there are three things you can say about a given XML document. One is it is ill-formed. What is the meaning of saying ill-formed is syntactically it is not proper. Either you are not closed some tags, or there is a nesting, there is a double quotes missing, that is ill-formed. What is well-formed is it is in compliance with W3C standard that is specified. And the last one is valid. What is the meaning of saying valid? Valid is a well-formed document. It is in compliance with all the standards that are specified by the W3C. Apart from that, it is also in compliance with a certain application, maybe a banking application or maybe a inventory application. It follows some steps or some schema that is specified by an application. So it is valid with respect to one application. You may say that it is valid with respect to my inventory application, or it is valid with respect to my student database management system, or something of that type. It is valid with respect to some software or some application. What is the meaning of saying valid? Valid is just to put some additional restriction to say that the format must be in this way. Suppose if you say student, if you declare a element called as student, the first element must be register number. If you just give you an example over here. I will again go to the Visual Studio because I don't think so you'll be able to get that XML spy there. I will just give a student. Students contain student. I don't want to waste my time on typing that thing. Then we have register number. Please ignore the cases. Typing it very quickly. We have two students here. Now, what is difference in both of them is, in one case, please ignore the case here. That is, I'm not going to change it because I waste my time there. In one case, the name has come first. In the other, register number has come first. Both have the data, but it is one is different from the other. When you give the first one to the application may recognize it. When you give the second one, the application may not recognize it, because application may be expecting inside student, the first thing it will get is the name. Suppose if you supply the register number, then it may wrongly print the, instead of name, it may start printing the register number first and then start printing the name later. So this is, suppose if your application is expecting someone to type the name first, then the register number, and if you supply this one, your application will not work because the data is not coming in the proper order. Then we say that it is not valid. This thing is not valid with respect to my application. That is the meaning of saying what do we mean by saying valid. However, this XML document is in compliance. There is no syntax errors that I have done. All the tags are closed. There is nesting is proper. Everything is proper. But I have shuffled the elements. So if you have a ordering even for the elements, you must say this element must come first, then the next, and then the next, and so on. If you put that restriction, then it is not the restriction that is given by W3C. It's a restriction for your application. So if any XML document is in compliance with those additional restrictions that you have put, then we say that it is valid with respect to your application. Okay. So finally, to sum up everything, when do we say that a given application is well formed? Why I am showing this again and again? Because it could be a 5 marks direct question. Element must begin with the XML declaration. There must be one and only one unique root element. All the start tags must end. The tags are case sensitive. All the elements must be closed, and the element must be properly nested. Attribute values must be quoted, and the names are used only once within the attribute. Remember, that is important. Whenever you are using the attribute, in the last class I have shown you, you cannot repeat the name of the attribute again. Any number of attributes may be there for a given element, but the same name of the attribute can't be repeated. For example, for a student, you can have attribute as register number, section, and so on, but register number again can't be repeated. I'm talking about attributes, not the element. So what is the difference? You are not getting it. What do I mean by saying that A is attribute, not the other? Here, you can have a register number, and you may have a class. Anything can come here. Any number of attributes may be there, but you cannot have one more register number here. That's not allowed. Okay, repetition is not allowed. This is as far as the well-formedness of the application. So attributes names are used only once, and the entities must be used for special type of characters. If you're using special character, instead of that you will have to use the entities. Now this is, and I'm not going to waste my time because you're already familiar. I thought you are not familiar with that. So let's go to the valid. What do we mean by saying valid? A valid document is a well-formed document. It is in compliance, but what is the next thing? It satisfies some syntaxis rule for a specific application. How do I restrict that thing? How do I, when somebody is writing an XML document, how can I restrict and say that, no, I want the name first, then the register number? They may not be knowing. They say that, okay, you said register number, I have typed register number as one element. You said name, I have typed it as a name. How do you say that, okay, register number must come first, then the other? We have to put certain syntactic restriction, and the way in which we do it is by using, I'll go back to I won't waste my time on that, is using document type declaration, DTD. So what is DTD? A DTD is nothing but, again that color is missing. A DTD is a mechanism. When I say mechanism, if you don't like that word, you can say it's a set of rules. Okay, so you are putting extra rules. Remember, these are your rules. They are not the rules given by W3C to describe the structure, syntax, and vocabulary of the XML document. So you are describing the structure of the document. You say that this is how the document must look like. And you are also saying that there must be certain type of elements, and the elements names must be of this type. You can't use any element of this type. Some people may write it as register number full, REGISTR and number full, or other person may say REG number. The third person may just say RN for register number. Everything may mean same thing. Remember, you are free to use your own element tags. So XML is very flexible. How do you say that? Everybody is supposed to write REG number as a register number. So to give that kind of restriction, to have that vocabulary, we use the DTD. It's a modeling language wherein you model or you structure the content. Again, one problem with the DTD is, unfortunately, DTD does not have the syntax of the XML. We have some elements which need not be closed and so on. So it doesn't follow the same syntax as that of the XML. That is one of its disadvantage. And because of that disadvantage, to parse that DTD, you require a separate parser. That's the reason we are going for something else, and that is the schema. We'll see that thing later. Let's go to the structure of the DTD. If you are writing the DTD must come immediately after the XML declaration. So if you write a DTD, it is after the element declaration. The next immediate thing is DTD. How do I declare a DTD within my document? We start with exclamation doc type, name of the root element, and some specification. Now what is the meaning of this some specification? All the rules and regulations that we want is typed here. This is the name of the root element. What is the meaning of that thing is, these are actually, again the color is missing there. It means to say that these are the specifications that are applicable to a given root element. So the rules for the given root elements are these. So this is what you are writing. How does the things work? Whenever you have the DTD, how the parsing takes place. Suppose say you have a XML and you have an associated DTD. When you give it to the parser reads the XML content, validates it against the rules which are specified in the DTD. If it is not compliance, it will not give it to the application, it will raise an exception. If all the things that are written here is valid according to the rules which are specified here, then it will give the pass content to the application. So what you can do is whenever you receive a XML document, you can validate it against the rules to verify that everything is proper, then give it to the application. Why can't I directly give it to the application? You know very well in the database you have read the GIGO, so-called, the garbage in, garbage out. So it is always advisable not to accept a garbage input, then try to figure out what to do with it. Don't accept a garbage input, you are safe. Accept something which is garbage, then it is your problem because you have accepted it. So your application, what it says is, it tells the parser, check whether that thing is valid, whether they have typed everything and every elements are there. If it is not there, don't give anything to me, I don't require it. If everything is proper, then give it to me, I will then start processing. So your application relies heavily on the parser for doing it. There are this parser, even though I have written it as parser, that's a general word that is used. That parser is usually called as validating parser. What's the difference between XML parser and a validating parser? A XML parser is the one that just goes through the element without validating. What is a validator? It cross-verifies it against the rules that you have specified. Okay. When do I use the DTD? Whenever I get a XML document from my clients or some other application, I just validate it. If everything is proper, I take it. Again, before I give some documents to my client or customer, I first validate it against their DTD. If everything is satisfied, then I give it to the other side. That's the reason. DTD can also be used to check the value. So you are getting something from the internet. How do you be sure that everything has come? You know very well. The packets, if you take the TCP IP, the packets, it splits into packets. The packets take their own route. Finally, they are zipped back or they are placed in a proper order and it is given to the application. So during that process, something may go wrong. Then if you use the DTD, you can just at least validate and say that. Again, you can't detect a fraud there. Somebody may snoop into your network and change the values. That you can't help it. In that case, you have to go for encryption. Okay. So the role of DTD is to put a schema and modularize your application. So let's look at how do I write the DTD. There are three ways in which you can write the DTD. There are two types actually. One is the internal DTD and the other one is called as the external DTD. Internal DTD is the one that is part of the XML document. It is written within the same XML document. External DTD is something that is written in a separate file so that it can be shared. Now when you write something within the XML document, you have the restriction. So it's like how you have the styling information. You are already familiar. You can write a style within the same document. The disadvantage is it can be shared with the other document. If you have a CSS separate document, it can be shared with many applications. The same thing is true here. If you keep a DTD as a separate document, it can be easily shared by the other document. So if you are writing an internal DTD, this is the syntax. Document type, root element, and your specification or your declaration will go within the square bracket. If you are writing an external, then you start with the root element. There are two options are there. One, you are using system, or the other one is public. So the two words can come. Either you can write system or public. What is the difference? Let's look at that part. Okay. If you are writing, first we will start with the inline or internal. For internal, you start with the XML declaration, then you start with doc type, name of the root element, and start a square bracket, write all the things that are relevant for all the rules and regulations, and finally close it. Then start with your XML part. So this is how it goes. Again, the color is not coming, I can't help you. Everything it shows in one color. The next one is the external DTD. When it comes to the external DTD, this is how you write. You write the root element, system, followed by the place where that external DTD is available. It may be available within your local network. It may be available in the internet or any other place. This is the URI where you can find the DTD. Okay, what is the difference between saying system or public? So I told you, just I'll go back by two steps. System and public. What is significance of these two words? When you say system, it means to say that it is your personal or it is your company rules and regulation. It is not standardized. It is for your reference, maybe for the department or for the given organization. There is a DTD that they have created, so it is not publicly available. When you say public, it means some standardized DTDs are available. What is the meaning of that? Remember, the Canara Bank may create their own DTD, Syndicate Bank may create their own DTD, the other Corporation Bank may create their own DTD. So when they want to transfer the data from one side to the other side, the Canara Bank must first find out where am I sending it to Syndicate Bank, or am I sending it to Corporation Bank, or am I sending it to Vijay Bank or other thing. Then based on that, they have to change their format so that it is in compliance with their standards. So it is very difficult. Instead of that, everybody will sit together and they will come to a conclusion that we will follow one rule. So it is like a universal rule. So everybody, every bank on earth will follow one standard format, and if such a standard is available, we say it is a public standard. So it is a standard that is followed by everyone, like ISO standards. So you have that thing. So if you feel that you are supposed to validate it against a standardized, already people have spent a lot of time and effort in designing a proper structure. It is better to use it rather than invest again and create something which has bugs and something which has to be again tested and so on. So it is a option is that. Okay. Suppose if you write the public, the syntax is different. Here what is shown is your system. When you write the system, it's a root element, system followed by where is it available. So mysite.com, my.dtd. Where is that document is available? By the way, the document type declaration is given an extension .dtd, 3 letters extension. How you get XML or HTML or something of that. The file extension is DTD. Okay, if it is public, this is how we write. We start with the doc type. This is the root element. Word public will come, followed by something very large. There are two sections are there, even though it may not be visible here. I'll just go back here. There are two sections are there. After public, one section is there in double quotes, and there is a second section which is there after double quotes. So it may not be very obvious when you look at here. There are two sections are there. From here up to here, one section. From here till the end, the second section. Two sections separated by space. The first section starts like this. If it is minus, it means to say that it is a standard. The draft has been passed. It is not finalized. There is still some conflicts are there. It's like you are using. If you want, you can use Windows 8 now. It is available. The technical preview is available. It is not finalized. Still some bugs are there. They have to fix it. So it is not standard, but people just use it. So before a standard comes, people start using it, because in a standard usually what happens is there are conflicts only in some part. If you are not using that part, you can still use a new standard. So if it is not yet finalized, so officially approved, then you can use minus. If it is officially accepted, then you can use plus. Plus indicates it is accepted. Officially it has been accepted. There won't be any changes. Minus to say that it is yet to be finalized, but the standard is there. Some draft has been already accepted. The next one is from here. Who is the owner of this thing? In this case, W3C is the owner of this DTD. Who owns that thing? The other one is what is the name that they have given for this. Remember, there is double slashes to separate them. This is the name that they have given, and the last one is the language that is used. In this case, it is English. So the first one is whether it is officially accepted or not. The next one is who is the owner, what is the name they have given, and finally, which is the language that they are using. That's the first part. Okay. If it is an ISO standard, international standard, then this won't come here. Instead of this plus or minus, ISO word will come. Letter ISO will come to indicate that it's ISO standard. Altogether, it has been accepted internationally. It has been accepted. Okay. What is the difference? W3C standard may not be followed internationally. Chinese may not like because it is created by US, or Russians may not like. But ISO means it is same. 1 kg in India, if you go to China also it is 1 kg. They are following the ISO standard. It must be followed throughout the world. There is no, nobody can speak against that standard. Whereas W3C, people may say that our country has not represented it. We are not following it. Okay, so it is not, even though it's a standard, but there could be some revolt against that. If it is starting with ISO, very assured that it is accepted. Everybody has accepted it. Maybe some, I don't know, some countries were not part of the UN and others, they may not like to participate. In that case, your company itself may not like to deal with them because there is no guarantee that they will get anything out of that countries. So that issue is different. Okay, let's look at the other part. Other part is obvious. Which place it is available. In this case, it is available in the HTTP W3C, the location where it is available. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Let's look at this in action. I have made some mistake here, so I will just first get rid of this mistake. So if I am supposed to put the DTD, then immediately after this, you can have a remark statement before this. Remarks is not a issue there. Doc type. The name in this case, I have represented it as student. This is the root element. Okay. If I just say ABC, just for the namesake, I'm doing it. So what is the meaning of this? It means to say that root element is ABC. So this one is the root element. Now, if you keep the cursor over here, Visual Studio immediately says that, say, you are not supposed to write student here. So this is what is the meaning of saying validating it. When you start typing, it just says, see, this is not allowed. There is a standard, follow that standard. Now, if either I can change it here or the other way, because I'm just doing a trial here. So, in real life, you are not allowed to change this thing. You are supposed to, students, I think I missed one. Yes, okay. So that's it. In this place, you get everything. So this is what we are going to write. How do I write system? We'll do it in the lab, how to use this system. But for that, before we venture into that, let's go ahead and let's look at what else can come. In some situation, it may so happen that, remember, each and everything may not be decided by the W3C or international body. So the minor details, they don't give a standard. The major things, they will give the standard. Minor details, they say that's too much to go into in depth, because that will create a lot of problems. For example, you have the small scale industry, mid scale, and the large industries. So when you create a standard, it must industry standard means it must go across the thing. If you go on digging down into smaller and smaller, then in the small scale you have this home, that is cottage industry, what they call, I don't know, these small, very small industry and so on. If you start putting everything in one standard, what will happen is it becomes too much. So usually standards are only few things will be there inside it. But if you are following that standard, and apart from that standard, if you have some additional things which are specific for your application, then you can first have it's like when you have this style sheet, you may import some style sheet and you may then create your own additional styles. That is your personal touch. If you want to give, you can do that thing. That is valid here also. You have a public reference for something, then start a square bracket and write your additional things. So public things are there, plus your things are there. So that is the same how you do it in style sheet. The same, you get some style sheet, write your own additional things. If you are not happy with that, you can follow that thing. So you can mix the inline with the external. Okay. So just to wrap up, what is the three different types? We have external and internal. In the external, you start with the public or system, followed by this. Remember, the DTD is available in outside this XML document. Here, it means to say that DTD is part of the XML document. In this case, DTD, some part of the DTD is there within this document, other is there elsewhere. So you are combining. It's a mixed usage that you are using. So the next part is what else can be there, or the blank section that I have mentioned here. What will come in this square bracket. So you can have either element, attribute declaration. Remember, these are declaration, entities, entity parameter, notation, and processing instruction. All these things can come. Let's start with the element. So how do you write the element? To declare an element inside that square bracket, you start with the element, name of the element, and the category to which it belongs. Okay. So let's look at that thing in action. So I've just declared a student. I will get rid of these things because I don't want it to raise unnecessary exception. So far there is no problem. If I want to put a element, so I can go and put the element. So this is the element. Remember, it is declaring. You are just giving the format. You are not actually writing the elements. Actual elements will come here. Okay. Element, I will say students. Okay, then you are supposed to type something at this place. So this is what it comes. What is that you are supposed to type? Now here you are supposed to type what type of element it is or what it can contain. I can just say any. Now any is like a reserved word. When you say any, it means to say that student can contain anything. So anything can come inside the student. Remember, just recall what's the use of writing DTD? To put some restriction, to put the format or put the structure. So if you say anything can come, then there is no structure. Anything can come. Anybody can write anything. Then how do you restrict them? So this is at the root level. This may not be a good idea. The next one is I can write empty. What is the meaning of saying empty? Nothing will come here. So it's an empty tag. Now I get an error message here saying that see what is written in the DTD is a student must be empty, and what it says, now you have put a space there. Space is not empty. So this says see, this is not valid. Okay, this DTD is not valid because you have put space. Even space is not allowed there. So if you want it to be valid, this is how it must look like. Nothing must come here. So we may just say, okay, what's the use of it? Okay, definitely at the root level you may not like to have an empty element, and I've already told you empty elements are used when that element carries an attribute. Suppose element, you don't want value for the element, but you are it carries some attributes like a flag. If you're putting some flags, then you go for the empty tags. Now what is there inside a student? What you're usually writing? Students contain student. So how do I write that thing? To write this thing, I have to use the circular bracket. I will say it contain student. Students contain student. This is what is the meaning of it. So then it just says, okay, it just says, now you said student, now who is the student? It just says that. Student, I can't understand what is the meaning of student. Now it is not saying anything here, but in the DTD itself it says that DTD itself is not correct. Your rules is not correct. The reason is you said student. What do you mean by saying student? Nothing, W3C has not declared anything called as student. That's your personal tag. So tell me what is this student? So I'm going to say a student is also an element. So student is also an element. It can contain anything. You got the difference now. So what is it? Root element is student. What must be there inside the students? Inside student, I am allowed to have student. See the thing there? It just says you can have a comment, you can have a processing element, you can have a comment, processing element, or what is valid now is student. How did it came to know that it is student? Because I just gave a DTD. In the DTD, I told the DTD that inside students, only student can come. Okay, sorry, I don't want this processing element. So I'm going to say student has to come. Now, inside student, what you can have? You can have anything. I told anything. So there is no restriction on student because still the structure is not proper. But can I have one more student? Visual Studio now says, no, that's the end of it. By its end of it, because I just told the DTD that there is only one student. That is all. I want only one student. Now, how do I say that there are more than one student? You are already familiar with these characters. I say star. Unix, you are familiar with this idea. What is star? 0 or more. What is plus? 1 or more. What is question? Any guess? Any question? So, what is star, by the way? 0 or more. You may have a student. So, if I delete this, will it generate an error message to me? So, because I said 0. So, if I put a plus here, oops, sorry, just says, see, you missed out, it is not correct, it's not compliance. Okay. Why? You are supposed to have at least one student, one or more, at least one or more. What is this question mark? Any guess on that? Any guess on this question mark? It is 0 or 1, not more than 1. You can have, if you don't like, don't put it. If you want to put only once, you can do it. Not more than 1. 0 or 1 is for that. Now, what could be this now? Without anything. Yes, 1 and only 1. So, it must be there. Only one instance is allowed. Now, I want more than 1. I will say, like go for a maybe optimistic way, 0 or more students. So, this is how I get it. Now, what are the characteristics of a student? What is there inside a student? A student has, what are the things? Yes, student has a name. Yes, you assume. They may have a register number. I am assuming element as a register number. They have taken a course. And they are in some semester. This is not complete now. Why it is not complete? The name is my tag. So that's my tag. Okay. Again, that is case sensitive. You can't write. I will complete that and tell you. Okay. Now, what is name now? Name is an element that I expect to type. So I'm going to say name. I want something that is for the time being. I don't want anything and everything. I want it to be. Just see whether you are able to follow. What is this PC data? Parsable. I don't want somebody to type greater than, less than, and other names. Must, if you say name, you must type it in English. That is what I expect you to do it. So I don't expect you to type some stars and garbage characters there. So I am restricting. So look at the way I am doing it. What is that I am trying to do? I am giving a structure to, I think I will copy paste it. That is better. Otherwise, I will be simply spending my time in trying to correct the spelling. So I have this reg number. Then I have what is this course. And finally, I need to paste the semester. Okay, I think it's proper. Yes. It's happy with that because I've got everything. So if I put the colon here, it's going to say you have a student. Okay, it's allowed. Again, it says student is incomplete. So student must have a name. Okay, so it just guides me with that. Student must have register number. Student must have a course. Student must have a semester. So when I do that, it's perfect. Okay, it is perfect here. You can't have a length. It's not possible. You can't say student must have length. Length of the name must be more than one character. That's not possible. If you want to have that kind of thing, go for one more thing called a schema. In the schema, you can say range. Register numbers must be between, what is your 0, 1, something here, yes, something 17 to 18. Range can be specified. The schema is much flexible, a lot of things are there. This is not so flexible. Okay, we'll look at that. Now, what if I do it in this way? There is no error now. What if miss out something. It's not allowed. What if I write it in the wrong order? It is not allowed. It just says that I don't expect you to type course first, type the register number. I want it in the same order. So it means, what is the comma? What is the use of this comma? Comma says what? In the same sequence. Things should be written in the same sequence. So what is the OR symbol that you have? How do you write OR? Yes? Usual OR? Yes? 5. Okay? You can put a 5 here. Now I'll make it as a single element. So what is the meaning of what is the meaning of this? Register number or course. Okay? Still it is wrong. Why it is wrong? It is register number or course, not both of them. It is one or the other. Remember, it is not both. That's not allowed. Now it is one among them, not both of them. If you want both of them, what is that? I am supposed to do it here. I will just put plus. What is the meaning of that plus? This part will start repeating. So what is the meaning? You can have register number, again course, again register number, any number you can have. So that is repetition. That part gets plus, means one or more. One must be there. You can have the course again. Okay, I will stop at this point.